Welcome back. All right, so I do like to do these videos that are, centered on one team. And today I want to talk about Utah, a team that's been doing pretty well lately, in all honesty. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10, as on the board here. They are 14-11-5 altogether. They're 3 points out of the playoffs. 3 points behind the number 2 wildcard spot currently occupied by the Colorado Avalanche. And they've played 3 less games. Yeah, they got 3 games in hand on Colorado. So, though it is very early in the season to be discussing that, this is a very interesting season they've had. So let's go through the chronology of the season that we've seen for Utah thus far. They won their first 3 in spectacular fashion. And it looked like the goals were going to be just easy. The defending side of things might be a little bit meh, but the offense was going to be great. And then they won 2 of their next 10. So that fell off quickly. They then won 2 of their next 3. Following that, they lost 4 of their next 5. And since then, they've won 7 out of 11. So they've won 7 of their last 11. It does feel like they're starting to figure things out. But this has been a very up and down season for the Utah Hockey Club. And so it's a matter of finding that style of play that suits you best. Maybe that's why they've won 7 of their last 11. Maybe they've figured out a system that works. So looking at their most recent 5 games, it starts with away from home winning in Buffalo 5-2. And if your answer is going to be, well, it's Buffalo. True, but if they'd lost against Buffalo, there'd be all kinds of discussions of that. So they won that one 5-2. Kesselring had a goal and an assist. Vejmelka saves 23 out of 25. Then they go into Philadelphia. They win that one 4-2. Logan Cooley had the game-winning goal in that one. And Stauber, 22 saves on 24 shots in that victory. Then they came home to play against Minnesota. They lost that one in a shootout, 5-4. And you'll take that. You'll take 1 point against Minnesota this year with how well they've been playing. In that game, Keller had 2 goals. Vejmelka saved 34 out of 38. Vejmelka's been fantastic, and we will talk more about him as this video rolls along. Then they go back out on the road. They won in Denver against the Avs 4-1. They did themselves a favor. They're now 3 points behind Colorado in the standings, and they have those 3 games in hand. So Cooley had 2 assists in the game in Denver. Vejmelka had 23 saves on 24 shots. Excellent numbers there. Then they win in San Jose, a 4-3 win against the Sharks. Schmaltz with a goal and an assist, and Vejmelka saves 19 out of 22. So looking at this, you can see that San Jose at the bottom, near the bottom of the standings, right? Buffalo has had their struggles. Philadelphia, not really a juggernaut team, but they're winning the games they should. And that's key, is that when people get into knocking down a team's winning streak, you'll always see that of, well, they haven't beaten anybody, because people will write off victories against any team below the playoff line, which now in the NHL means 16 teams are immediately not applicable. You can't talk about a great win they got because people will shrug their shoulders and go, well, they haven't beat anybody. And then there's the contending teams that when they beat a contending team, people will answer with, well, they didn't play their best game that night. Nah, it's just that, that was back end of a home and home or back end of a, back-to-back. It's just, people will make excuses for anything. I think it's still impressive to be able to get victories. Sharks fans, not as impressed with this victory, having some issues towards the end, as Ryan Warsofsky did, of course, as well, and he got fined today for it. But I still think that Utah's trending in the right direction, and that's important. Now, the stats since November 18th, I wanted to look at the last month, and there's 13 games they've played in that time period. So that would include just before they got into this good run. But Dylan Guenther, 13 games, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points. When he's playing well, he's fantastic. Logan Cooley, 13 games, 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points for Cooley. Keller, 13 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points for Keller. So that's 3 players at or above a point per game for Utah. It's a good number. Schmaltz is not far behind. 13 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. It took forever for Schmaltz to get his first point this season. Exciting, or first goal, I should say, of the season. It's exciting that he no longer just has assists, and he's been quite good. Sergachev, a lot of talk about Sergachev, rightfully so. 13 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. But I think when I hear about how Sergachev is dragging this team towards the playoffs, there's some truth to that, but I think it definitely overlooks some very strong performances by other players on Utah's blue line and just in general. Stenlund, 13 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. When you're getting production like that from a bottom six player, you're happy. Kerfoot, 13 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, so 7 points there. And Carconi, 13 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points as well. Carconi, ice cold early in the season, but he's been heating up lately. And if he can produce about a point every other game, yeah, Utah's happy with that production. McBain, 13 games, 5 goals, 1 assist, 6 points since November 18th. And Kesselring, and I've been talking a lot about Kesselring in videos lately. I'll mention him again here. 13 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. And his game has just really come up to that next level. And if he can stay there, Utah's got themselves better defense, I think, than people give him credit for. Now, what's interesting is they're playing well, but not everybody's producing. Barrett Hayton stands out to me as a player with 4 assists in 13 games. It just doesn't seem to be clicking with Hayton. And it's interesting because it's not that long ago that you had Hayton on a line with Keller and Schmaltz, and it was one of the best lines in hockey. They've tried that this year as well. It just doesn't quite have that same chemistry it did before. It's always interesting to me with lines that way, that sometimes you'll see a line stay together for 4 or 5 years, but some lines, they get really hot for a 30, 40 game span, and they just can't find that again. Lawson Krause, another one I'm very surprised by, with 13 games, just 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Krause is a power forward. He's due for some goals. So while they've won 7 of their last 11, I would say Krause and then Michelli, they're due. Michelli just has 1 assist in 13 games. I'm very surprised by that because I think Michelli's an excellent forward. So there's 3 players here who've been ice cold from a scoring perspective, and all of them could produce more than they have. And so that bodes well, I think, for Utah being able to keep this up. Because even if we see Gunther's numbers start to drop, one of these other players down here should be able to get that going. And then in net, Vejmelka, we know the story. 5-3-2, 9-11 save percentage. He's been excellent throughout most of this run. Even when they weren't playing well, Vejmelka generally was. Goal saved above expected. He's right near the top of the league there. And then there's Stauber, just 2-0, so not a lot of games, but that .962 save percentage, when they've called on Stauber, he's been good. His most recent attempt, that win against Philadelphia, where he saved 22 out of 24, he's been good. And he's been good because Connor Ingram's out. Ingram over the last month, 0-1 with a .692 save percentage, only played, I think, roughly half of that game. So it's a small sample size for Ingram. And the one thing is that with how Vejmelka and Stauber have both been playing, it takes some of that pressure off Ingram when you look at his timeline and when he's going to come back. Now, looking at their numbers, and this is still over just the last month, they're scoring 3.38 goals per game. They're allowing 2.38 goals against per game. So if your average is 1 goal more for than against, those numbers are excellent. So honestly, the numbers are really good. Their power play at 26.8%. Their penalty kill 82.6%. So their special teams have been good. The overall number is solid. Their goaltending's good. Scoring depth has been fine. Their blue line is underrated. There's a lot to like with Utah, even though they are still below the line. One thing to look at is shots. They're getting 28.5 shots per game. They're only allowing 26.6 shots against per game. Those are very strong numbers. So they're carrying a lot of the play. They are getting the goaltending they need, the goals they need, and some pretty solid defense. And clearly some shots are being blocked, or some zone time that the other teams may have against Utah, or may have had against Utah before they got better. They may not be getting that ice time now in the offensive zone. Now, looking at their upcoming games and acknowledging that, yeah, there's a couple of games in there. San Jose and Buffalo kind of stand out as ones they should have won, and they did. Tomorrow they're at home against Vancouver. Vancouver's excellent on the road, so that is going to be a real challenge. Vancouver, it feels like, has started to, find some consistency despite that game against Boston on Saturday. Then on Friday, Utah goes to Minnesota. We've already seen recently Minnesota's not an easy one. We know Minnesota's not going to be easy for them on a Friday, but can they win it? I think they can. Then they come back home on Sunday to play against Anaheim, and on Monday, December 23rd, just before the break, they're at home against Dallas. Dallas is not the same team on the road that they are at home. Interestingly enough, Anaheim is better on the road than they are at home, so if they were going to Anaheim, I'd be a little more optimistic about Utah's chances than them hosting Anaheim. But Utah's been, improving, I think, at home, although their road record has been very, very good. I think it's 6 games in a row they've won on the road. So we'll see if that continues or if Minnesota breaks that on Friday. Then after the break, on Friday, December 27th, they're at home against Colorado. So they've already got a win against Colorado recently. They've shown they know how to beat them. Now they'll have to do that at home. Then they go back on the road to Seattle on Monday, December 30th. Seattle's right in about that same spot. Seattle is not far out of the playoffs either. That should be a very competitive game. And then on New Year's Eve, December the 31st, they're in Edmonton. Edmonton is not an easy team to beat, but Edmonton's home record is not as strong as their road record. So there's reason to think that maybe Utah can keep this up. And if they end up above the playoff line, that could be a great story. And it would be a lot of fun to cover a team that in their first season, and we can have the debate about whether or not they're truly an expansion, inaugural team or not at another time too. But either way, first year in Salt Lake City, it would be entertaining to see some playoff hockey there. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think that the Utah Hockey Club can compete for and maybe get into a playoff spot? Or do you think they're going to have that fade? Keep in mind, last year Arizona had that fade, but that fade seemed to coincide with news that the team could be moving as they did. So while we talk a lot about how players, you make that kind of money, you should be able to, just don't think about the distractions. Easier said than done when it comes to a team moving. And so, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding Utah. I think they're a fascinating team to talk about. It doesn't hurt that I now have magnets for Utah. I have a jersey and hats for Utah. I now feel more like I'm not just, an NPC talking about something, that I'm actually, able to talk about Utah. Even though the logo and the jersey, it's still kind of placeholder until we find out the actual team name. Who knows? Maybe Utah Hockey Club stays. I don't think so, but maybe. There you go. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have hit those buttons already. Thank you guys for all your support. It is greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.